What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman. We're back with episode 5 of Against the Blitz, Football with Oz. Austin and I are recording fresh, very raw off of the AFC championship game. And if you were unaware, and if you couldn't tell, a lot of Bills fans in the world had their hearts just ripped out again by the same Grim Reaper, quote unquote, that just seems to haunt our dreams every single fucking postseason. So, my thoughts are like this is about as raw as it's going to get from a Bills fan, from what I like to think is an objective Bills fan. So I'll try to be as honest as I can. But if my bias leaks too far, Austin, just kind of pump the brakes on me.
You just got to do what you got to do, man. Like, if you're recording fresh off a loss like that in the championship, then you got to do what you got to do. But objectively speaking, as someone that's not a fan of either team, the Bills played great, but to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, you have to play almost perfect. And they almost did. They almost played a perfect game of football. But it came down to what the final drive once again to beat the constant AFC championship Chiefs, and it just didn't happen. There was a very, very, very close play that could have been made by Dalton Kincaid to get them into scoring range, and it just didn't happen. But Josh Allen played a hell of a game. Like he looked fantastic. So I don't think that there can be any narrative coming away from this game that the game wasn't in situation to be won by Josh Allen.
Yeah, that seems to be the case all the time at this point, right? I had so many thoughts fly through my mind when I saw Josh throw that ball and Kincaid not come down with it. Flashbacks, trauma, deja vu, PTSD, anything of that sort, I got hit with in that moment. And I didn't even actually realize in real time how close Kincaid was to catching it, but he was close. In fact, Josh ended up overthrowing him based on how Kincaid played it. It was not tipped. No one got in his face. No one interfered with him. He just misread it. And the two thoughts that ran through my mind were, one, the Diggs drop last year. It feels like every single year Bills fans are left to rot for 7 months with a replay of a supposed top player on the offense failing to capitalize on an opportunity that Josh Allen gave them that no other quarterback probably could have given them. And I also had another deep cut, being a Bills fan, hit me, was early in his career we were playing the Dolphins, and it was 4th down at midfield. I think this was his second year, maybe it was his first year, and Josh on 4th down throws up a heave to Charles Clay in the back right corner of the end zone. And this guy was twirling and throwing this ball. And the fact he even got it that far was insane. And Clay just could not get his footing enough to get under the ball. That was slightly underthrown, but given the circumstances, just like this one, he couldn't catch it. And it was just, it just felt like it all came full circle. Early career Josh Allen, his weapons sucked. They couldn't make plays for him in big moments. And now current Josh Allen, it feels like the same thing, even though the weapons are better. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's what this came down to, because that would be like accusing Mark Andrews of, being the reason why the Ravens lost. It's not the case. But like I said, it just feels like every single year the Bills and the fan base is left with a replay that makes your stomach curl every year. You just can't.
The one part of the game that the part that really made me ask questions, I don't know what you felt about it, but on I think it was 3rd and 10. I just don't think that when you have a playmaker like Josh Allen, that a design screen to an aging Amari Cooper that hasn't really shown a lot of rack ability the whole year, throwing him a 5-yard pass, I don't see the move there. I think when you have someone like Josh Allen that is just built to at least get one of the third and longs. If you don't get a third and long, if you don't get that deep ball that you wanted or the scramble that you wanted, you can do it again. And Josh Allen's built to get one of those. So I think trying to get really cute and trying to outsmart Spagnuolo and try to outsmart this Chiefs team with a screen to a seemingly 80-year-old Amari Cooper, even especially when you have guys like Shakir that are like rack specialists and you give it to like the worst one to set up a third or fourth and manageable, and you only get one shot from there. I feel like I would have just taken 2 shots instead of 1.5.
Yeah, I think I had 2 thoughts on that. People were kind of backtracking, generally speaking. People have been criticizing Joe Brady's play calling from this game. People felt like it wasn't his best. There was, on the drive where Curtis Samuel caught the game-tying touchdown, the third down before that was a Keon Coleman fade ball.
Yeah.
Keon has caught like one of those all year, like a genuine fade that wasn't a broken play, and it was in like a blowout, if I remember correctly. Like, there's no way there have been enough reps, in-game reps of this, and we have that. We know that there haven't been for that to be the call in that situation. Fade balls, in my opinion, are one of the lowest percentage plays to have in your pocket on the goal line to begin with. I don't care who the receiver is. It's just not a great play.
No.
And to try it with a rookie receiver that has been invisible in the biggest of spots was questionable. There were other times where Joe Brady was maybe not mixing in enough deeper shots down the field. My family was kind of talking about it. And as much as I believe that we got here playing the brand of football that we did, there were still so many situations where it felt like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, or 4th down where Josh had to make a crazy throw to convert. There were like a few drives where running the ball worked as well as it did. Getting the ball out in the flats worked well. And I'm glad Joe Brady stuck to his guns, because if he didn't, I don't think this game would have been close. But maybe challenging the Chiefs' defensive backs a little bit more would have been nice. I guess it just comes down to the confidence that we have in our boundary receivers, and that's, I think, part of what goes into the 3rd down call, which resulted in the 4th and 5, the screen to Cooper. We just don't have the confidence, I don't think, in any of our guys to win so fast against that type of blitz.
I guess.
To get the ball out quick. I think it had to be something where the receiver was getting open on his own, I guess, was getting open by design, I should say, not on his own. And that's what's so frustrating about it, too, because we spent such a high draft pick. Well, we spent a draft pick, our highest draft pick, on Keon Coleman. And that's a situation where I'd like to see him be that option, or Amari Cooper, the guy we traded for at the deadline. And he was, but not in the fashion that you would like him to be. So I think that's kind of what played into that play call. So I didn't hate it as much. I think it just speaks to the confidence that we have in our receivers.
Yeah. Part of it to me is like when you invest premium capital into players, like trading for Amari Cooper and drafting Keon Coleman high and drafting Kincaid even higher, it comes to a point where like you're investing so much capital into these weapons, you kind of got to at least try.
Yeah.
And when you have arguably the best quarterback in the world in Josh Allen, you don't want to leave it on the field where we only gave him a 4th and 5. Like, I think when you have, definitely, in my opinion, the greatest playmaker out there, the last person I would ever want to face on a 3rd and 10 and a 4th and 10, I would much rather have him throw the screen on me to Amari Cooper than try and make a play. And we saw him hit like the very few successful deep balls that they even tried. Like they were all successful. It felt like Matt Collins was automatic for whatever they tried. And he put the animal mask on, and
dude,
he became an animal. Apparently.
That motherfucker. I thought I'm going to be nice because he played exceptional, but I'm getting so sick of the Matt Collins antics. I tweeted it out before the game. I'm like, okay, fine. Show up to the game barefoot with a Hawaiian shirt unbuttoned and short shorts in -2 degree weather. Fine. If that's you, that's you. The dude's walking up the tunnel in a Sesame Street costume against a team that's about to three-peat. Like, can you be serious for like 2 seconds? Like, honest to God, that pissed me off. And if he would have dropped that first touchdown Josh threw him, it was a great catch. I'll give him all the credit in the world for that. But that ball was so perfect.
Like, it was beautiful.
He has
throw.
to catch that.
Beautiful
I would have
throw.
lost it on him if he dropped that ball.
That was one of those plays where like you have to make the play, but it's a good play.
Yes.
Like not every receiver in the NFL is catching that.
No.
And I would say maybe only half do. I mean, that's a tough ball. I mean, he's a big, strong receiver, and that corner was on him.
Mm-hmm.
Was that McDuffie?
It was McDuffie. Yeah. He got called for DPI too.
Yeah, an all-pro. So you got a guy on your back, an all-pro on your back. Like it's tough to make that catch, but like he did. It was a beautiful throw. But like that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like later in the game, me and my friend were talking. Like they weren't hitting enough deep shots, and then they hit Mac Hollins up the seam for like a 30-something yard play, and you're like, it's open every time they try it. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs don't have the personnel in their safety room to be threatening. I'm not afraid of Justin Reed or Brian Cook in deep coverage. I would much rather play my receivers in a mismatch on that. McDuffie is really the only person in that secondary room I'm truly trying to avoid. So, yeah, I felt weird about the lack of aggression at times. It felt like Joe Brady was so confident in his matchups that he felt like he had in hitting the screens or throwing the fade on McDuffie as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They're testing an all-pro corner. Yeah. I know he's a small corner, but like he's an all-pro for a reason. And Keon Coleman is not an all-pro. So I know you have the size mismatch, but like, man, when you have Josh Allen and James Cook is playing like a top 10 running back in the NFL right now, I would rather fail with the ball in their hands than trying to get cute and failing with the ball in Amari Cooper's hands or, eventually Dalton Kincaid's hands, as it ended up being. But God bless, man. They played a great game.
The sick part about that fourth down drop, quote unquote, from Kincaid is Ben Solak tweeted out, the NGS dots that they have like immediately after every play. They have the play art with the dots.
Yes,
he tweets it out, and the play was this orbit motion from Shakir out of the backfield against man-to-man, what's usually a man-to-man beater, I think. And it got open, and it was actually it was the perfect play call. In fact, it was the play call that converted for us against the Chiefs the first time we faced them. And Josh just doesn't swing it out to Shakir, and he ends up getting hawked down from the opposite edge. I saw the dots. I would show it to you right now if I had it like screen recording or something.
I remember the play vividly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, God bless, man.
Yeah. It's just like, why is Josh not like, I don't know. I understand maybe in Josh's mind, he doesn't want to get rid of it so fast because
I know.
I think Spags did a good job of kind of disguising the pressure on that fourth down. So I think he was thinking like, if I don't feel like something's there right away, I'm going to hold it and I'm going to make a play because I'm Josh Allen. So
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
No, it felt a little suspicious to me, even as like an outside watcher, when I think you had Ty Johnson up top, and then you had the rest of everybody else at the bottom, but your one star coverage corner is at the top covering the running back. You're like, it felt weird. Like it felt like McDuffie didn't need to be pressing Ty Johnson up there. Like it felt like something else was coming. So, I mean, it's easy to say that in hindsight, but like, and I totally get the argument of, I know Shakir had the orbit play, but it's so hard to throw the ball behind the sticks.
Yeah.
And
especially when you need 5 yards.
Right. And Shakir is the one guy besides maybe James Cook that like I would love to put the ball in his hands and have him make a play to get 5 or 6 yards. But I get not wanting to do that. And I get being forced to make a decision, when a corner is screaming in your face. But it's so hard to look back on plays like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot similar to when the Bengals lost to the Rams. You saw Jalen Ramsey got burnt by Jamar, and you can see like if he literally one more second, if he would have just known that he beat him and thrown the ball up, he would have got it. Same thing. Like if Josh Allen would have known that Shakir was due for an easy first down, then I think he probably would have thrown it, but when you have a Spags blitz in your face, it's a little hard.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, though, result aside, I thought this game looked like it could get ugly. I mean, early on, Josh threw 2 picks on the first drive that hit the ground. Yeah. That was bad. The protection up front it collapsed instantly. I thought our offensive line got blown back on the second and third down on that drive, and Josh missed 2 throws. It just looked bad. And then the Chiefs go down the field with, an RPO game that just shreds through our defense, and they score the easiest scripted 7 points I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go,
dude.
We answer with 3. Yeah, go ahead. Were you to say something?
I mean, I was just gonna say it felt like the Bills were stuck in mud.
Yeah.
On defense, like it felt like they were so late to react to every RPO, like you were talking about. And I thought the game was going to get ugly. They were cooked on that first drive. I mean, it's complete props to McDermott for getting them back, but holy shit! The Chiefs had a perfect game plan.
They did.
So
the preparation that went into this game from a Chiefs perspective, I mean, it always impresses me. It never will fail to impress me. And like you said, it was just the Bills looked slow. They looked like defensively they weren't prepared. But I think that's just how on point the Chiefs were to start that game. And the Bills go and kick a field goal. They're down 7-3. And then the defense goes and recovers a fumble, which the Bills have been very fortunate with all year long. And the Bills drive down the field and they score a big touchdown. I mean, there were three of their touchdown drives. I felt like they had to overcome a large amount of adversity, and they did. And that first drive they scored on, they had, I think, Josh fumbled. I think they converted on a 3rd and 9 to Amari Cooper against the Spags blitz. He threw a dart through the middle of the field to Cooper. And then Josh also fumbled on a first down. It put it to 2nd and 20. They convert and they still score, which was a huge touchdown. Later in the game, they're down 11 points, 21-10, right before half, and Josh throws that dart to Hollins with 23 seconds left. That was, in my opinion, the game-saving touchdown. I can't say saving, but it certainly helped a ton.
It saved what? Yeah, I mean, Josh did what he could do. It felt like. It's like he's of all people you can't put the game on. You can't put it on Josh. You can't put it on James Cook. Those guys played their ass off. I mean, I don't even know who to put the game on. It just felt like what you were saying. The preparation was incredible. Benford going out early hurt because then it just was a picking on of Elam for what felt like a few quarters. It felt like every time that they found Elam, they would just run a in-breaking route on him, and it was money. And there were 2 plays in particular where it did feel like the game was without controversy for a while, but the QB sneak that in my opinion, it felt like he got the first down, and the jump ball that the 160-pound Xavier Worthy was rewarded with, when it felt like it, 1, hit the ground, and 2, it never really felt like Xavier Worthy was the one that had the ball. So it just feels like the losing by 3 when you had those 2 things go not your way were the actual deciding factors in this game.
So fuck yeah. I mean, what are the odds that Benford gets concussed halfway through the second defensive? I'm spitting everywhere. The second defensive drive. He's been our Patrick Surtain all year. Kelsey did nothing in this game. It was really just Worthy and Juju on a couple broken plays. Other than that, it would have. I think this game certainly goes different if Benford's still healthy. Not to mention, not having Taylor Rapp, it hurt. Having rookie Cole Bishop out there next to DeMar Hamlin is probably a bottom 6 safety duo to have against Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage without your top corner. So that was such a loss early on. He made that huge pass breakup on Hollywood, And then
Yes,
on the next
early.
play, on the next play, he goes down and Elam comes in, and it's just like the poor kid has been a fucking scratch like 90% of the season. So it's tough to step in that moment, but it's not even like one of those situations where the quarterback knows the backup goes in and he's going to pick on him, but then the corner's going to slowly pick up to game speed and he's going to be fine. It doesn't happen. He just is continuously ass. He just, oh my God. Like, I get you have to play 15 yards off of Xavier Worthy, but maybe like get slightly physical with the 125-pound guy. That's his whole shtick coming out of college was his physical play. Not to mention, he was covering DeAndre Hopkins on a hitch route. He gave him like 12 yards of cushion. I'm like, if there's one guy you could get in the face of that's not going to burn you over top, it's him. It's him. Why are you not getting physical with him?
Was he a first-round pick?
Elam? 26th overall.
Oh, my God, man.
That was the McDuffie draft. That was the McDuffie draft.
He's like 6'1" in physical and like reasonably athletic with long arm. I don't understand what makes him bad other than just lack of reps. Like seemingly athletically, physically, like he has every tool to be a good corner. I don't get it. And like poor Cole Bishop, man. But like, and I liked Cole Bishop coming out, but to just fill in for a Taylor Rapp when they both play like completely opposite brands of safety, like, is a tough task to say the least. So, and Taylor Rapp, for as up and down as he can be, when he's on, is a monster.
It's a playmaker.
Like what we were saying, like he had like the tools to like take Lamar out of the game and just kill him. And like when I kept seeing Mahomes scamper, because he doesn't run, he scampers to the right numerous times when Rousseau or whoever loses contain, and it's felt like a play where Taylor Rapp would have like hit him so hard that his helmet would have come off, but instead DeMar Hamlin, who was over there, or Cole Bishop, who was over there, just kind of lets him run. And it felt like having that strong safety Punisher presence and having a borderline like all pro corner, like one of the best in the NFL, like that makes a huge difference. So not to say like that was the game, but kinda.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Chiefs without McDuffie, who knows how that game opens up? I mean, it's the same thing in my eyes. It's the same exact thing. And you're right. I do think Taylor Rapp's physicality was probably missed. It really didn't feel like outside of our offensive line winning at the line of scrimmage often that there was really any other presence of physical play from really anyone else. I mean, James Cook had that probably the greatest 1-yard run I've ever seen in my life, which was ridiculous. But other than that, I felt like Travis Kelce was bullying. Like, he drew a couple flags. I think Marquise Brown drew a flag against Elam. I don't even know how this relates, but you're right.
It's just voicing frustration of this game. This has gone the conversation hasn't gone any general direction other than just the frustrations of this game. But it's fair. You know, it's fair when you see the Chiefs win however many consecutive AFC championships in a row. And what is this, 9 consecutive playoff wins for them now? And it's just frustrating. Like, because it's like every time it feels like the same thing where it's so close. And it's just a few very specific moments that win them the game every single time. And like we can pretty easily pinpoint the few moments that won them the game. And it felt like when they happened in real time that like these were the swingers in the game. And it's not that the Bills did anything like super particularly wrong. It wasn't like they were super out schemed or outplayed or out physicaled by anybody in particular. It was just that the Chiefs are just come ready. You will never catch them off guard. And they just didn't get all the 50-50 plays that needed to go their way. That's just really how the game felt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was able to sit and come to terms with the Worthy call, I guess. Like, the fact that he's coming down with that dude probably has more contested catches than Keon Coleman does this year. And that's a conversation that I will get into in like 10 minutes because I want to go insane about that. But anyway, I was able to live with that. Fine. If you, for whatever reason, call it a catch on the field and you feel like you can't overturn it, even though it probably hit the ground, fine.
It definitely hit the ground.
But the fact that on that tush push, he needs an inch. I don't understand, for one, how on the field, the first far side ref runs and spots it as a first. He spots it as a first.
Comfortably.
Yes. And then the short side ref runs up the line and spots it short. They confer, and all of a sudden it's short. Okay, well, why was that guy's ruling better than the other guy's ruling? What determined that? And ultimately, that was the call that stood, obviously. And that's what's so frustrating, is because the NFL has been consistent with the idea of no conclusive evidence means no overturning it. Like, they've been consistent enough with that, fine.
Yes.
But why on the field was it over? Why was one guy's ruling the correct ruling, if you will, over the guy that did spot it as a first down? Like, there needs to be a solution to this. Some sort of way to have a defined, a defined way to find where the ball is, because it's
more
getting
camera angles. God.
Something, and that's the frustrating part, is they have all the camera angles in the world.
Yes.
They review it.
Ones.
And because they can't see exactly where the ball is, they have no ability to infer where it might be. Like, there are screenshots of Josh across the line. No, you can't see the ball because there are 14 bodies in one spot. But you can't have some sort of common sense, as Booger said. Common sense prevails. Like, please.
I won't quote Booger, but the ball would have just had to have disappeared out of his arms. Like, you would just have to have assumed that the ball didn't come with him.
Yes.
But you couldn't see that. The ball was always to his chest. And when his chest crossed the line, a smart person can infer that if Josh Allen has the ball to his chest the whole time and Josh Allen's chest passes, one can, correctly assume that the ball came with him. And it did. But for some reason, that's just not conclusive enough to the NFL. So I don't know. I don't want this to get into a thing of like bad calls, because it felt like the game was more fairly called than a Chiefs game normally feels. But God, like, it felt like that was a possession away, and it was a possession away from the Bills winning. So obviously, a single inch, it feels like, screwed them out of their season. And it happened not early in the game, but like, they had time to come back from that and get a stop on the Chiefs. But still, like, every inch in drive matters. So stealing a drive from them is going to really matter.
100%. I mean, it just, like you said, it wasn't the game necessarily, but it certainly alters the outcome, even if there are just 3 points put up on that drive. Ultimately, it just, I didn't feel like, as a Bills fan, the game was called unfairly. I know the whole week the big narrative was what crew was calling the game and how many roughing the passers have Mahomes gotten compared to other quarterbacks and all that other shit. But I refuse to accept this result of just not, like you said, not being able to infer. Like, any smart person could make that determination in that moment. And it just is frustrating to me that we're in 2025, all of this technology, all of these different ways to track how fast someone can run. And did you know that there's like chips in the ball to see how fast someone's going? They have chips in the ball for stuff like that already.
In GPS, you can see specifically where the ball was.
Yes, they have this technology in these balls as we speak, and they just don't use it for the one purpose that would actually be helpful.
Yeah. One thing I'm talking about is like when you go to the grocery store and they have those the two big plastic pylons next to the door, and when you cross them and you didn't pay for your groceries, they buzz. So there's technology that exists that when a specific item passes through barriers, it knows, right? So I feel like it's not crazy that it would somehow have an idea that the ball would cross the sticks and like somehow technology wouldn't know about it. Like if they really wanted that to be a thing, I feel like that could easily be a thing. And I know you don't want to rely on technology all the time, but like I'm tired of relying on old men too. So
old men that do this 6 months of the year, nonetheless. Like, this is not their full-time job. Oh my God. And yeah, I want to get like a screen recording slow mode of the two refs walking up to spot it originally and just seeing the drastic difference in spacing. Yes. Because that's, like I said, whatever. They don't overturn it, fine. But what was it in that conversation that gave the call to the one that said it was short?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. And it ultimately begs the question, like, why don't we have some way to actually know this definitively? Because we are way too far in life to be doing this.
We have Bluetooth, man. We have Bluetooth. If we made Bluetooth, we can do this too.
Jaden Daniels is practicing in virtual environments. Like, the guy is recreating like end of game scenarios to be ice cold in situations with a fucking headset. And we can't figure out where a ball is on a fucking field. That is a conversation. I know people kind of make jokes about how the Bills changed how overtime works and changed those rules. Well, this is the next fucking rule that needs to be changed, or the next implementation that the Bills have been affected by, because it's getting out of hand. And obviously,
it's always the Bills.
It's always the Bills, but maybe this is what it takes to actually make some sort of change, enough outcry about it.
And it was hard as a fan base, like a Bengals fan or a Bills fan. Obviously, there's really bad blood from us against the Chiefs. And it's so easy, it feels like, to discount what we're seeing from this Kansas City Chiefs team for the last, half decade now, over that, since 2019. It's greatness, like what they are doing. And they're not doing it in a flashy, sexy way. And they're doing it with different personnel. They can change around their weapons. They can change around their defense. Like, they get it done. So I don't want to take away from how fantastic of a football team and how much of a model they are to run a football team. But it's just so frustrating to see them kind of win the same way over and over and over and over and over again. But somewhere I got to respect it, Somewhere I got to respect that they are just a unbelievably well-coached team, a very disciplined team. And that's just what it takes to win those close games, I guess. I don't know if you saw the stat on the TV, if we were watching the same kind of broadcast, but when it said their record in one-possession games, and it was a stupidly good number, it almost makes you feel sick when you're watching the game and you're wanting the Bills to drive, and you just see Andy Reid's record in one-score games. You're like, he just fucking does it every time. There's nothing you can do about it, no matter what. And God, I hate taking away from how good they've been with ref talk, because I know it's so frustrating, but I just can't. I'm just starting to really appreciate what they are as a team, but my feelings are very mixed right now.
I definitely, the football fan in me, which I separate from the Bills fan, has come to fully appreciate them, and I refuse to listen to all the ref bullshit that I've been hearing over the last week. I refuse to listen about how lucky they are. Like, I don't believe any of that. None of that is true. I think we talked about this last week a little bit.
We did.
But
so, making your own luck, yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's what the Chiefs do, and that's what makes them so great. They win these games because, as you mentioned, they're always so prepared. That first drive, we touched on it already, was as smooth could get. It was perfectly executed, perfectly crafted. Spagnuolo, the timing of the pressure is always perfect. Where it comes from and how it comes in, when it comes in, always perfect. And he's been doing that all year. And another thing that two things I wanted to touch on that the Chiefs did very well in this game was it never felt like when they were in short yardage that it was going to be difficult. In fact, you were very scared if it was 3rd and 1 and you were a Bills fan.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in 3rd and 1 for the Bills, it was increasingly difficult, it felt like, to pick up that yard as the game progressed. But the Chiefs had that fucking play where they lined up under center, Pacheco or the running back in the backfield, Mahomes fakes the handoff and he runs it, and it's pretty much an option in a way. It's Mahomes can, keep it and run it outside the tackle, or he can throw it to the running back, and it's an unstoppable play. They ran it. I'm pretty sure they ran that exact play when they played the Browns a few years ago in what was the divisional round or whatever. But it was, who was their backup at that time when Mahomes got hurt?
Chad Henne.
Was it? Yes, it was Chad Henne.
It was Chad Henne.
Yes, yeah. They needed a first down to seal the game, and Mahomes was out. And they ran that exact fucking play. I'm like 99% sure I said it when I saw it happen in the game today. And they ran it today like 3 or 4 times. I'm pretty sure they ran it on like 2nd down on that final drive when they were just trying to, get rid of the Bills' timeouts. It was just that play. They waited for this game, this moment, to have that play prepared, and there was just not a single answer to it from Buffalo.
No, and it feels like they could do it with whatever personnel they have. These fat fucking running backs that they're bringing in, Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, like these guys are all well out of their prime and fat. And Juju Smith-Schuster is not in his prime and also kind of fat. And they're still just like, no matter what they do, it's just working. I mean, it makes sense. Their head coach is fat, and he's just killing it. The Chiefs are just love fucking fat, smart people, and it's just working, and I hate it. They can do it with anyone.
They really
run the
can.
Same. It feels like they run the same plays over and over and over and over and over again, and you don't see it coming, but you can't because they disguise everything so well, and they make you nervous, and they make you freak out, and they made Josh Allen freak out earlier in the game. It felt like it's mind-boggling that they are just doing it the same exact way for what seems like also going to be the next decade of my life.
And
so
leave it to Kansas City as well to find a way to have a successful day against a Josh Allen tush push. Like, they stopped it a lot. And this has been, I think, as good as the tush push gets, like comparable to prime Eagles Jalen Hurts tush push from whatever 2 years ago. Like the Bills version of the tush push has been damn near just as good all year long. Leave it to the 2-time champions, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo. Leave it to those guys to find a way on the biggest stage to stuff it multiple times. I would like to know how many times it was ran versus how many times it was converted, because I'm pretty damn sure it was in favor of the Chiefs. And it happened to be on one of the most game pivoting moments on that 4th and inches that was not overturned. So leave it to them to stop what has been a crutch to this offense. And that is something I took away from this. And I told myself, it sucks we lost, but that's what makes them so great. No one else was going to find a solution to that play. No one. But they did. And they made it work. And it was a huge reason why they won that game.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about running the tush push a lot, I mean, how many times did the Eagles run the fucking tush push in one drive?
Are we getting into that?
I guess they just came to mind immediately of how many times the Eagles ran or attempted to run tush push in one drive.
Oh man!
Before get into your point.
Yeah, I want to get into that game, but before we do, holy shit, we're 40 minutes in. It literally.
That's why I went with it.
It said 10 minutes 2 minutes ago.
That's why I changed it. That's why I had to go.
Okay. I want to say 2 things real quick. One, I don't want to hear, this is a PSA to any Bills fan, I do not want to hear any McDermott slander, any Sean McDermott deserves to be fired takes. I don't want to hear any of it. McDermott's defense was not the reason we lost this game. McDermott's lack of leadership, whatever you people come up with, was not the reason why we lost this game. We didn't lose this game because McDermott can't be the one to take us there without any rationalization behind that type of claim. None of it. In fact, I think the defense was half the reason we even had a chance to win. The defense stopped Mahomes on second, third, and forced a field goal at the end of the game and gave the ball back to Josh Allen with 3 minutes left. It was a dream scenario. His defense did that. Like, when's the last time the Bills have had that golden of an opportunity where the ball was in their hands with clock on their side to finally determine the outcome with it in Josh Allen's hands? That doesn't happen.
No,
it hasn't happened. I mean,
at this point in the coaching cycle, the best coach left is Joe Brady, who the other Bills fans are probably not fond of for a very few amount of times that he messed up that game. So good luck. Here's Mike McCarthy for you. I'm sure you'll love that more. So yeah, McDermott has to stay, obviously, who got them to an AFC championship and almost won the game. No, you don't need to in panic fire one of the better coaches in the NFL. Don't do that.
Yeah. I know that's going to be something I'm going to read on my stupid fucking timeline for the next.
Tag me in them.
I will.
Tag me in them. Let me add them.
We'll attack them together. We'll double team them because I'm so sick of it. I've been defending that guy since 13 seconds. Before that, people have been saying this shit for years now, and I just don't want to hear it, especially in this game when their job was to give them a chance, to give the Bills a chance to win. And they did exactly that, recovering a fumble, forcing a punt on the Chiefs coming out of halftime, which was a huge stop that allowed the Bills to eventually take the lead. And then that final drive too. So I'm cutting that off right now. And the other thing I wanted to ask you as a non-Bills Chiefs fan,
right?
Is it fair to compare the seasons that Keon Coleman and Xavier Worthy had and say, you know what, maybe the Bills did massively fuck up in selecting Keon and letting the Chiefs go with Worthy?
It's hard because they play such different receiver positions, right? But yes, when you trade back confidently as this is our guy, we have this 6'4" perimeter guy that's supposed to be a world-class athlete and run good 40 times. He didn't, but everyone thought he would. But when you have the supreme athlete of a jump ball monster and you trade away the rights to draft the fastest 40-yard dash of all time and a elite special teamer and elite rack specialist and seemingly really good route runner, and you sacrifice all that for Keon Coleman, who's just supposed to be a jump ball guy. He's not that good at it yet in the NFL. I would say that it's a bit of an L. I don't think that Xavier Worthy is elite. I don't think in someday they're going to look back at this as one of the worst trade backs ever. But I do think, yes, in a vacuum, I think that Xavier Worthy is a better football player than Keon Coleman. I think he always was. I think he was a better prospect. And I think that Buffalo just got a little confident in their guy. They loved his interviews. He got his coat from Macy's, it was a fun moment. But yeah, I think that obviously I'm not going to call somebody a bust in their rookie year, especially when they're meant to be a developmental player. But I do think that it was a year one bust. It was a rookie year bust. He still has plenty of time to fix all of his issues, but for year one, that was not a good pick.
Yeah, I'm glad that, especially someone like you who is very draft centric and you do your homework on all these guys. I also thought the same thing, doing less homework on the receivers that I compared to you. I thought Worthy was the obvious choice. I was slamming the table for Worthy. I think we've talked about it. I was live streaming during that draft, and I lost my fucking mind when we traded out because I mocked the Bills getting Worthy. I thought it made the most sense for the fit we were looking for, approaching the season with maybe not a primary wide receiver one in the room. He adds this diverse element of speed that really no one you can find in the NFL outside of, Tyreek, I guess, could potentially give you. It just felt like it made so much sense. And then we decide to, reverse the clocks and go with a guy that might have worked in like 2014. Like we don't need jump ball receivers anymore. That's not the league. It's all about separation and getting open and guys that you can get the ball to in space and let them create themselves. That's what this league is all about. That's the kind of player that Worthy was, and Keon was the complete opposite.
Yes.
And it also doesn't make sense to me that Keon has obviously been underwhelming, but it's not even as much a Keon issue as it is just knowing the vision that the Bills had going into this year. He didn't fit it either way. There was a reason why he had an underwhelming year, because he was underwhelming, and B, he just wasn't going to be that kind of guy in the run game, or at least he didn't end up being, as far as I'm concerned. Right. He didn't fit the puzzle. We had to know we were going to go into this year running the ball and prioritizing winning in the trenches. And like, where did Keon fit into that?
Not over Matt Collins as a blocker, that's for sure. And not seemingly as a contested catch guy either, or a separator for that matter. So, I mean, as long as Matt Collins is around, I don't see Keon Coleman jumping him in terms of really anything. Except for really just run after the catch. That's all he really has him in. And he doesn't really get to do that very often. So we haven't even seen that yet. So I think we have plenty of time at some time to really dig into the draft selections of this year. And that will be one I'd love to dive a little bit even deeper on, because that was an interesting choice by Bean and company to trade back one of the more dynamic receivers of this draft. So it's tough to see.
Yeah, there was a lot of time with it. I was puzzled by it back then. Still puzzled by it now.
It's hard when you have to watch him go for 80-something yards. What was it?
He had 100.
Did he have 100 at the very end of that? Well, he had 85 yards and a touchdown. So
okay, well, either way, still he
had 16 rushing yards. Yeah. So yes, he had 16 rushing yards. He had 100 total yards. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well.
Yep.
All right. Well. Yep. Those are my thoughts on that. Keon Coleman wasn't a great. I did not think was the ideal prospect for a 2025 NFL offense, especially one that was going to prioritize running the ball and not airing it out anyway. So, what was the point? I don't get it. Didn't make sense. So we can talk about the Eagles and Commanders now. I think I got everything out.
I mean, there's not much to say about that game in terms of just like belt to ass. It kind of felt like God. I tweeted. That was one of the only times I've like really anger tweeted towards a game that I had no stake in. I didn't
tweet.
Just the entire Commanders roster besides Jaden Daniels, really. Like three fumbles. All of them lost. I mean, they fumbled more than that, and they recovered their own. But like 3 lost fumbles. De'Ami Brown, Austin Eckler, and Jeremy McFucking Nichols all fumbled the ball away from this game. And I know it was 55-23, but a lot of those points came because of these fumbles and late in the game in garbage time. Like this was a close game for a while and a winnable game until the very end, until the last quarter. So, I mean, I just like to get your overall thoughts from this game, but it just felt like it was Jaden Daniels against the world and against his own team, really.
Yeah. All those Ravens fans that bitched and moaned that Lamar didn't get the help he needed and that Andrews threw the game away and Lamar did everything in his power to win and he played well enough to win. Well, imagine how Jaden Daniels feels, okay? Lamar could stand up at the podium and bitch and moan about how annoying it is that they turned the ball over. How about Jaden? He got fucked 10 times worse than Lamar did. He had no stake in the turnovers. He played, I would argue, perfect. Like, he might have played perfect football, as perfect as he could have.
If one pick, he was trying to come back. I'm not going to hold that against him.
I forgot he even threw one. But
it was a jump ball.
Yeah,
it was a jump ball, and like late in the game, it did not count towards that. Yes.
Right. So I don't want to hear another Ravens fan try to defend Lamar with annoying turnovers and feeling like he did enough. Like that's my first thought, especially after the third fumble, was, oh my God, Jaden Daniels is getting absolutely screwed, and people thought Lamar got screwed. last week. Like, this is another level of disgusting. But one thing I did write in my notes pertaining to this exact topic was, I feel like as viewers, we have to start accepting that these aren't not luck-based, but they aren't all the offensive players lacking ball security skills. It's also the defense making a rehearsed, well-timed, well-executed play to knock the ball out. Like, 3 fumbles in one game. Obviously, there's going to be some luck that goes into that. Obviously, you're going to look at the Commanders and the 3 guys that dropped the ball and say, like, when are one of you going to get the hint? Like, that's a fair.
Yes.
That's a fair.
Later
assessment.
in the game, you want them to do what Will Shipley did on his last run.
Right.
Yeah.
But to some extent, too, it's those plays are just as normal for Eagles players specifically as a tackle. Like, these guys, this is part of their routine to go in and time a punch perfectly on the nose of the ball. Like, this is something that it's the same thing as a tackle to me at this point, the way they've practiced and rehearsed it and got it down. And that's why they're generating them by themselves. These guys aren't just dropping the football.
No, they're not. No, but there is a thing too, not holding the ball down low.
Yeah.
And holding it in tight. But there were some. I'm trying to think of the one in particular that was a really good punch out. The one against Eckler was a really good punch out when he fell down to get the low ball, got back up, and immediately was just punched out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look at actually who punched all of them out.
I think Carter forced one.
It is.
Burks?
Yes. Yeah. So you had Oren Burks did it, who had a great game last game. Fantastic game last game, filling in for Nakobe Dean, who everyone thought this was going to be a travesty that they lost Dean, and actually Oren Burks comes in and plays better than he did. So that's insane. And then who else forced? Was Will Shipley? This is crediting Will Shipley with the forced fumble on the kickoff.
Oh, wow.
Which would be insane that a rookie running back would knock the ball out like that. And then Zach Bond, who, as we know, is playing legitimately all pro football in his first year playing proper off-ball linebacker. So whatever they're doing in Philly right now is incredible. So I do agree to your point that, like, they're not just like sucking at holding the ball. Like, these are great punch outs.
Mm-hmm.
And like that does come from preparation and just repetitive practice, just punching the ball out over and over and over again. So I do agree with you there. That's actually a really good point.
Well, to that idea of the Commanders, shooting themselves in the foot, that was still ultimately the story of the game. Someone could come in and haymaker your chest, like, you hold the ball. And
yes,
that still holds true. And so does a play that probably in the grand scheme didn't end up making that much of a difference, but the Saint Rastril, I can never pronounce his name. I think that's how you say it.
You're about there, yeah. Saint Rastril, I think.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Mike.
Yes, big Mike.
Unnecessary roughing
brother.
Saquon out of bounds. What were your thoughts on that before I give my take?
He was just angry. Like, and if you're trying to get my thoughts on like whether or not it was a flag or like a warranted flag, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, by the rule book, if you want to argue the semantics on whether or not his foot was, barely touching the ground when he hit him, sure, it may not have been in the, like, if you break it down piece by piece, but like the man was like 2 feet out of bounds.
Yeah.
Like 2 yards out of bounds, damn near. Like, you got to know, like, there's a good chance that his feet might be touching the ground when he's that far out of bounds. So lay off. If you want to you can even touch him. You just don't need to shove him. You don't have to shove him out of bounds when he's already out, especially when it's third and like it would have been fourth and medium, 4th and 5 at that point, maybe. Like, you had him down, and then you just lost your team 15 yards after Sam Ristro just got cooked by AJ Brown on an out route in the red zone, one-on-one coverage for some reason. So, yeah, I think he was just frustrated that he just has been getting beat. I don't know what the hell AJ Brown was saying to everyone, but he made everyone in Washington want to fight him. Everyone. Like, I know Lattimore likes to fight everybody, but like he was getting everybody angry, and it looked like Philly was in their head. I don't know what he did, but like whatever he was reading that day was good. It was really good. It was really good.
Oh my god. No, yeah, you're right. Like there was a mental side of that game that definitely got under Washington's skin, and it seeped into their blood, whatever Philly was doing, whatever they were saying, and it just ate them from the inside out. And I think the penalty on Sanders Strill kind of started it all. I think that was before the fight with AJ Brown and Marshawn Lattimore. Or was that between those two guys? But there was
Somewhere
that
around there,
skirmish. Yeah. But nonetheless, like I agree, you got to know that he's out of bounds. He's going well out of bounds. And the point that you made is, it's not like he was trying to beat him to the sticks or anything and try to lay a hit to push him back. He was well short. Like let him run out at that point.
Like 5 yards, yes.
So what was the thought? I don't know. And for people, people like you say can argue the semantics about if his foot was down or not. This flag is called unnecessary roughness. That was the textbook definition of unnecessary. So you could say it's soft. The NFL is going soft. They might as well play flag football or whatever you people want to yap about. Fine. But by definition, to me, that was unnecessary, hence the unnecessary roughness penalty. And it ended up, just kind of being the first of many moments where the Commanders, kind of were overwhelmed mentally. And then there was the A.J. Brown, Marshawn Lattimore fight. And then we might as well touch on what happened at the goal line as well, and what you tried to go into earlier, but I had to prevent you. Oh, my God,
man. I mean, I don't have to count on me how many times they attempted, like, inside their 2-yard line to do a QB sneak. I feel like they could have just handed it off to Saquon at some point and just gotten it in. But they were so determined to just give Jalen Hurts his media flowers. So, like, Frankie Louvu decided that he was going to channel his Palomalu and try and time the snap count. And to a point where I've never seen, the ref threatened to just award Philly a touchdown because he was committing so many penalties in a row. I have never seen that in my life live. I've never heard of that, to a point of just like offsides penalties and encroachment penalties. And I just thought that was strange. I think that the refs wanted to go home, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I just wanted to know what you were thinking during that time, because I just kept laughing. I had no thoughts other than that was just really funny.
I thought it was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
I know people like took this as another reason to hate the Eagles, but I actually kind of gained slightly more respect for them just because that was such a moment of, we are so much better than you. We are just dominating you actively, and we're just going to fuck with you right now. Like we're just going to do whatever we can to make you even angrier, to toy with you even more on the biggest stage that you've played in all year. And they're just dangling something, whatever, the win in their face, or the stop, I should say, dangling the stop in their face, and they can't get it because like, oh, not yet, not yet, not yet. No, you don't go anywhere yet, Frankie. And it just, I thought it was funny. Like you said, I was laughing the whole time as well.
Yes.
I have to give Frankie Louvu credit because in his mind, he probably didn't know that rule of awarding a touchdown even existed. Who did know?
No.
And 2, it's like, hey, I'm giving up 5 inches to potentially create a loss of, 2 yards if I'm able to time it right and drag Jalen Hurts back. So what's the loss here for Washington or for Frankie doing
just
that?
keep trying until you get it right.
Right. You might as well, at least until you give up a touchdown, because there's a rule that prevents you from doing it. So
soft.
Yeah, it's a soft league.
Yeah, but like, no fun league. God, yeah. I just, that game it didn't feel like a playoff game to a certain degree. It felt like what we were talking about earlier. Jaden Daniels was like almost the only guy that showed up. I mean, looking at it now, that the fact that Will Shipley doubled the rushing yards of Brian Robinson Jr. doubled is insane. And that he was not even their leading rusher. the one thing I will say about this game that could give Philly fans hope is that Jalen Hurts looked better.
Yes.
As a passer. He didn't look insane. He had 246 and a touchdown passing. That's pretty normal, but he didn't look bad how he had looked the past few seasons, the past few games in the playoffs. So I think if we're going to have anything to take away from anything that Philly did different, I would say just straight kudos to Jalen Hurts for finally seeming to unlock his passing game when it mattered the most.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We've been harsh on Jalen Hurts, rightfully so, not out of hatred.
No, he didn't go off. He had 246 and a touchdown. It wasn't crazy, but
he did his job. He finally just did his job. He's been trying to be, as you put it last week, which I thought was perfect, a cerebral pocket passer. And he finally kind of was that. He was decisive. I thought he found a rhythm and was on time with a lot of his passes. I thought there were a couple times he held on to it where he should let it rip. I think there was an opportunity early in the game where he could have let it go to A.J. Brown in one-on-one coverage and he held on to it. But other than that, I really can't remember a time where I'm like, wow, Jalen, what the hell was that?
No.
Which has been the case multiple times over the last few weeks. And he just did what he had to do. The best chance the Commanders had in this game was forcing them into third down and making Jalen Hurts make a decision and complete a pass with pressure in his face. And the Commanders did that. They got him to a few opportunities on third and even fourth down. They sent heat at him. And for the first time in a while, Hurts actually had an answer and executed to it. And I think when that ball, that go ball up the sideline to A.J. Brown was hit, that's probably when the Commanders were really oh, fuck. If he's hitting this shit, what do we do now? This was the one thing that maybe we could have had a chance against them with if he was missing these throws or if he wasn't decisive with it. Maybe we could take advantage of the Eagles in that way. But if Hurts is even hitting this and he's executing in this way, we're done.
Yeah. Dude, but so I enjoy giving him his flowers as critical as we've been, But the one dude that I'm giving flowers to is Landon Dickerson in this game. He hasn't started a game at center since college, and then comes in filling in for an injured Cam Jurgens and just plows people out of the way in the run game. And I thought the Philly special, not the Philly special, the tush push would have some kind of a change, and it almost seemed just as menacing, if not more, with an even bigger center over there who was a better blocker than Jurgens, bigger boy, stronger, and he got hurt. He got hurt in the game, but he couldn't come out for most of it because he had to play center. They didn't want to have Jurgens hobble back out there, so he played his ass off, and I think he was a huge reason why they were able to still unlock the run game and spring Saquon for a 60-yard touchdown immediately. First play of their offensive game after an 18-play drive against him. And all these guys are just filling in different positions. Tyler Steen is another one. Filled in at guard, who hasn't played there in quite some time. And it seems like whatever they try at offensive line is just working. So a kudos to the injured and new center, Landon Dickerson.
Yeah, you make a very fair point. I mean, the tush push is something that, as easy as it looks, as we saw with the Bills and the Chiefs, it doesn't always work. One, and two, it's not always an easy, quick, seamless process with the exchange between the center and the quarterback. I think there was even a time where Jalen did drop it once because the exchange was bad, but other than that, it looked as seamless as it always has, and that is, I don't think, easy when you're having a transition of centers, especially one that is not a center. So it certainly speaks to, once again, the preparation and what's the stupid offensive lineman coach's name? Stoutland,
yes.
Dan Stoutland or something.
Stoutland University, yes.
And it just speaks to the way he prepares these guys every week to make it seem like these guys are just all the same elite player with different names on the back. But in fact, they're all very different. They're all varying in skill level, but they all elevate themselves, and Stoutland is able to get them to perform at the level that they need to, like you said, spring Saquon for a 60-yard touchdown on the first play. And to that point, on top of the A.J. Brown go ball that they hit, I think that play and the first play from scrimmage for the Eagles offense was probably also pretty defeating if you're a Washington fan or a player. Like you have this very gritty and determined drive that took 7 minutes. You end up with 3 points, 2 fourth down conversions. I mean, it took a ton of effort to scratch and claw to walk away with the 3 points you had. So much effort just for the opposing team with all of their stars to trot out there, hand the ball off, and seamlessly score in 7 seconds for 7 points. And you're like, what the hell? They just put up 4 more points than us, and it was far less effort. Like, how draining did that have to be for Washington just to see, like, the Eagles go out there and be like, yeah, we're going to do what you just did, but twice as well, twice as quick, twice as easy. Like, I would and that was the tone setter for the game. Those first 2 drives set the tone. The Commanders had to literally beg on their hands and knees for every yard they got, whereas the Eagles, the Eagles were just gaining yards, scoring points at will.
Yeah, they had to get Zach Ertz 11 catches to even make this game. A 32-point game. Like, it felt like he was like Terry was low key outside of that one really good play, and kind of in prison for a little bit of the game. And he's a fantastic receiver. I mean, if you have a rookie corner like Quinyon Mitchell putting him in jail, like, it speaks volumes to the kind of preparation you can do to shut down, in my opinion, pretty much close to being a top 10 receiver if he's not already. So, like you were saying, just scratching and clawing their way for any yard when it felt like they had to do the same thing to stop any yards from Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it felt like they had to hope for an inaccurate pass or a penalty or the random Frankie Louvu play where he would just shoot through and stop Saquon every time they got in a field goal range. But like, that was the only possible way that they could even stop 5 yards from happening. And I mean, January is not Washington DC's month, man. It's just not. I mean, 4 years ago they had some shit where like they had a rough time there, and now they have this. So January 6th is no longer the big problem. Now it's January 26th as the day that will live in infamy, where Washington DC once again just kind of got fucked, So, like,
that was
this is something that Republicans and Democrats can agree on, was that they just kind of got fucked today.
That was crazy. That was awesome. That was an amazing connection to make.
It's sad, man. I feel for him.
Marshawn Lattimore was just as good as the security at the Capitol that day, because that guy, I even tweeted out during the game, like, man, how awesome would it be if the Commanders traded for a Pro Bowl corner at the deadline instead of watching Emmanuel Forbes out there get cooked every play? Like, how crazy would the secondary be? And it's like, oh, wait, that actually is a Pro Bowl corner. That's Marshawn Lattimore.
Yes, that's Marshawn Lattimore, who is, I don't know how old he is at this point, but like, he's not that young. When was he drafted? In 2017, I think. Like,
I don't think he's 29 yet. I think he might be 28.
Let me look how old this motherfucker is.
It's a liability. I know that much.
He was Swiss cheese, man. He was just full. Yeah, he's 28 years old.
Yes.
And he was just getting. It's not like AJ Brown is some super suave speed, like quick change of direction route running specialist. Like, he is what Lattimore is. He is a gritty, physical football player that just out grittied and out physical Marshawn Lattimore, and happened to just be a better athlete too. We're not talking about grittying here. No. I saw the Chiefs mascot do it in the back of the end zone. I got so mad. He started grittying after a field goal, and I got so pissed. I about threw my phone. But yeah, I mean, poor Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, he got cooked by Mike Evans. We all forgot because they won the game. We all forgave him. Then he get cooked by AJ Brown. Now we can't forgive him anymore. Marshawn Lattimore, that was now a bad trade.
That was not a bad
It is now deemed to be a bad trade.
Oh my god! You know what I thought of too when watching, going back to the goal line thing and the tush pushes. Two things I thought of. One, in the NHL, actually, there is a rule where a goal could be awarded if something happens that is not within the rules to prevent the goal. So hypothetically speaking, if someone's on a breakaway with an open net and a defending player like chucks his stick from behind him and it ends up tripping the player or it knocks the puck off the guy's stick, they won't even give a penalty. They'll just say, okay, that was going to be a goal, so here's your goal.
That's so weird.
Yeah, so the NHL does that. So I guess it isn't the craziest thing ever that the NFL it has something close to it. I guess the weird part about that was, for me, the Commanders weren't like griefing. Like they weren't playing Madden and they weren't upset that they were losing, so they just kept jumping offside to like piss off the other player to the point where maybe the other player would just leave. Like that's it. They weren't griefing. Like there's a rule in Madden where if you go offside too many times, it'll just boot you out of the game.
Yeah, I've done that.
For griefing. So right, like it's not like that's what they were doing. They were just genuinely trying to make a stop. So the fact that the refs were like double fucking them, it's like the Eagles were just toying with them from the front and just making them to be a complete mockery. But the refs then came in as backup and walked through the door and said, "You know what? You can't do that anymore. You can't try to stop this. Now you have to let this happen."
I know.
I could take that in inappropriate.
You have to let this happen. You have to let this fucking happen to you. Yeah.
But yeah,
speaking of that, like
that the refs were like adding on to the misery for the Commanders in that moment.
And that actually kind of gave me an idea when you're talking about that. Because it kind of just reminds you, like in every sport, you have penalties like that. They're not just flags. Like they don't always move you positionally. It usually gives you like a one-on-one opportunity to score. It's like in soccer, you get a penalty kick. You get a one-on-one opportunity. In basketball, if something kind of similar, you get a jump ball in certain situations. And in hockey, you can have shootouts where it's a one-on-one situation. I think in football, if something like that happens, there should be an Oklahoma drill that happens from like the 10-yard line in or the 8-yard line in. And you get to pick, you can pick whatever player you want to be a part of this Oklahoma drill. And that counts the touchdown if they get it. Or it's turnover on downs if you don't get it.
That's an insane proposition. And
yes,
Bobby Wagner would absolutely be the selection for the Commanders.
I mean, you got Saquon, though. Like
Saquon would be the selection for the Eagles, of course. Bobby's PFF grade would probably plummet 30 points if that ever happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it would hold like half your points on PFF. What I think would actually be even cooler is if it's like a mutual flag. Like it should have been a mutual flag between Marshawn Lattimore and AJ Brown. I don't know why they only awarded it to one guy. But if that happens, that's where the Oklahoma drill should ensue. And they should do an Oklahoma drill to see who gets penalized.
Okay,
if it's two guys, they get Lattimore on one end, AJ Brown on the other end, make them run, and whoever wins the drill doesn't have to have a flag against them. The other guy has the flag, and they concede.
It was weird that they only penalized Lattimore for that. Like,
yeah, it was a fight, and his helmet came off. Like,
didn't Brown punch his helmet off too? Like, wasn't that what?
I don't know who punched his helmet off, but like, yeah, like he didn't have a helmet, and AJ Brown did. So like, it couldn't have been that bad on Lattimore's end.
That was what I was thinking. I think my brother said it too when we were watching. Like, why did he only get penalized for that? Like, usually they're all about giving the retaliation the penalty, but I feel like they failed to do that in this.
That's why you can just do what I suggested, and like you just flag them both, and then they fight it out with an Oklahoma drill.
Oh man. Well, there were a couple other thoughts I wanted to touch on right before we close out this wonderful episode. Where did I write it? Oh, I was on record on this very podcast ripping Mike Tomlin apart for not giving his team a chance in a similarly scripted game that got out of hand, that they were clearly outmatched in. And even though it ultimately didn't matter, I felt like Mike Tomlin didn't give his team a chance to win. I thought, alternatively, in this game, Dan Quinn coached about as well of a game as I felt like he could have. And it doesn't feel like it makes that much of a difference. It didn't make that much of a difference. But that game was, I don't want to say close because of what the score says, but it was as close as it was because of, I thought, decisions that were made by the coaching staff, by Dan Quinn in certain moments. The fake punt being the biggest one that comes to mind. Like, that was so sneaky, but so well timed. They needed, and I mean needed, to sustain an offensive drive there, and they didn't. But he pulls out the fake punt, understanding how situationally important it was for the Commanders to keep the football, and he executes it. He stuck to, yeah, it was a great throw by Trustway.
Yeah,
he stuck to his guns on fourth down on the first drive. I thought it was odd that they didn't continue to go for it and ended up kicking the field goal. But I understood. Like, what'd you feel about that?
I mean, if your whole thing's going to be aggression, they were already kind of in field goal range when they started doing it, and then you just get an easier field goal, and then you kick the field goal. Maybe they thought their luck would run out and that they would get sacked or an incomplete pass. I don't know. But to me, if you're facing a team where you're clearly like physically outmatched, in a team, especially like the Eagles, where they don't have a weakness, except maybe a kicker now, but they don't have a weakness to exploit. So you kind of got to just hope that you can win scenarios like that, where you can be a little bit more aggressive than them, and you can kind of win with your heart and win with aggression, and hope that you can kind of make the Eagles panic a little bit, keep them on the back of their heels. But you can't beat that team kicking field goals and conceding drives, especially when you're fumbling like that. Like after you start losing possessions like that, you got to turn the tempo up, not concede to the game flow and play the game that the Eagles want you to play. Like, they want you to punt. They want you to kick field goals. They're just going to run it down your face with Saquon again. And then they're going to take him out of the game and run it down your face with Will Shipley. Like, they did whatever they wanted to. They bent him over. Like, they did literally whatever they wanted to do to him. And that was foreseen. I think anybody would have known that if the Commanders played the same game that the Eagles tried to play, they would have lost the game. And the Commanders were going to have to play aggressive and do something outside of the realm of normal football to beat them. They could not just play a normal football game and win. And towards the middle and end, they tried to just kind of play a normal football game and win that way, and it just didn't work because they're not a better football team.
Yep, 100%.
So, yeah.
The only reason on that, the first drive, I thought, okay, I guess it makes some kind of sense, is because it was the very first drive of the game. So I gave them some benefit of the doubt, but I did also find it odd that they did go for it the first two times and then decided to kick on. It was like 4th and 3 too, which it was short. Although it also had me thinking, because the other day before this weekend, I was watching back some highlight videos of former playoff games, or last playoff games from a few years ago. And I was watching the Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game highlights from 2020, 2021. And the Bills, it just speaks to how different the NFL is today. The Bills twice kicked a field goal when they were down by multiple possessions against Kansas City on 4th and goal from the 3 and like 4th and 2 from the 8. And they obviously ended up losing that game by a few scores. But I was thinking while watching that, like, if McDermott were to have kicked field goals in those scenarios against this team in 2024, 2025, he would be butchered in front of City Hall, and his body parts would be like displayed on the front steps. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, he would get ripped to shreds if he ever would have considered kicking in those scenarios, but now they don't. And now no one does. And that was just 4 or 5 years ago. And it's crazy how much we have changed our perception of these situations. Like, it's been a full 180 the way the league has been flipped on its head in these opportunities.
Yeah. it just feels weird because that's kind of what Dan Quinn's whole MO was to go for it, go for it, go for it, go for it, go for it. And it wasn't like he only did it in this game either. He's done it the entire playoff, like the literal entire playoff. And we and you actually talked during the first game that they were being way too aggressive, it felt like, and they should have kicked their field goals at certain points. But that was when the competition level felt a little bit more even, right? Like it felt like they were a pretty similar team to those teams. But now that they are playing what feels like a super squad in the Eagles, like you have to turn it up. So I think looking back on it, you can't really pinpoint one or two scenarios where it felt like could have won you the game because you lost by over 30. But I think, like you were saying, even though it was the first drive, keeping that aggression up to set the tone of the game would have been pretty huge.
Yeah, I agree. It might have, hey, who knows? It might have set the tone differently for Washington too. Set the precedent. Like we're gonna go for it every single time we have an opportunity, and it's kind of like a you can't do anything to stop us type of MO to send to the defense, which is what, like you said, they've been doing pretty much all of their postseason run. And that leaves me with my final thought of Jaden Daniels obviously being the mastermind or the execution. The executor, if you will. And I just keep thinking to myself every time I watch him play how he does not shy away from any moment. Like it's almost as if he doesn't feel pressure somehow. It's like he doesn't have an understanding or like enough brain cells or something to have emotion to like feel how big of a moment is. Because I've never seen a human being be this unbothered by situations of such gravity. It is so remarkable to me how he's able to just ice himself, completely isolate himself, and just make plays like he's playing a regular game every day.
Especially for a rookie. He never really played in a lot of super meaningful college football games. You know, they never really went to the playoffs or I don't think they ever played in a conference championship game. So he really would just played a bunch of college football regular season games at LSU and Arizona State. And then he comes in to a team with pretty little expectations. Like he wasn't mentally prepared to come into a team that was a contender to be a Super Bowl winner. And then he just kind of learns as he goes and just gets tougher and tougher. But I feel like we've always kind of seen it with him. Because I don't know if you watched a bunch of his college tape, but like he would get demolished 5 times a game. Like that was my biggest con on him coming into the NFL was that he doesn't care about getting hit or being under pressure. Like he will just get smashed and he'll just keep doing it over and over and over again. And as like the skinniest quarterback in the NFL, like that was a worry of mine was that he was just going to keep getting hit really hard and then one day just die like on the football field, like Damar Hamlin. It would have to be like that again. I didn't want to see that. I did not want to have to see that again in person. So like, it was just unreal how tough he is to just take these hits and just keep getting up. And it's kind of the same thing as a passer where he just doesn't care if there's pressure in his face. Like he's just going to throw the ball how he wants to. And if you hit it, you hit it. He's not going to change what he does for you. It's crazy. And I love that from like, I think he's 24-year-old rookie. Like he's got the world ahead of him. He's going to be such a good football player.
Awesome. I love it too. Like I was also concerned for the same exact reasons you spoke to, and you make another fair point. Like maybe the only explanation is this guy he's got to have a couple screws loose. Like there's no way he's like all there mentally to be able to just not care or just There's got to be something wrong in here for him not to be able to conceptualize this kind of stuff and understand. Like I don't know.
Like every great quarterback though is like kind of actually insane. Like Tom Brady's actually insane. Yes. And Peyton Manning tried to get his own player killed, Austin Collie, on the football field. Like, he was insane. Brett Favre was insane. Like every good quarterback that like can play through these big moments is kind of insane. So like it's actually almost a good thing when your quarterback kind of just seems like he's an insane person and he's just willing to just take a hit. And he's willing to just stand in pressure and move around pressure like it's nothing. Like it's a bunch of kindergartners around him, even though they're all twice his size. Like it's just incredible. I love it.
What if I said, well, let me rephrase this. You need a game-winning touchdown drive in the playoffs to move on to the Super Bowl or to win the Super Bowl. How many quarterbacks are you taking over Jaden Daniels currently playing in the NFL?
Not that many. I wouldn't say a lot more than 5. I mean, it's hard to ever move away from your big 4, right? The big 4 kind of always stays the same. The same big 4. Maybe Stafford. I don't know. But like the element of running it is insane that Jaden Daniels also has that someone like Stafford couldn't do if the play breaks down. So I might even take him over Stafford to go like win me a football game when it comes down to one drive specifically. And when the play breaks down, like he can also extend it from there. I would say I might play him at 5. Honestly, that sounds crazy, but like that's honestly where I'm going to put him.
No, I was going to say something similar. Like a must-have drive. Jaden has been money every time. Like every single season, it's every single season. Every single game this year, I feel like there have been different drives where it's like they got to have it, or there's a conversion that the Commanders have to convert to keep themselves alive. And he's always converting. He's always scoring. He's always finding a way to keep his team hanging around. And it had me wanting to pose this question because there's another individual, particularly that just got bounced from the postseason, that is fantastic, otherworldly, some might say, but maybe he just conceptualizes the moment he's in too much. Yeah. And he's lost a lot of playoff games and got bounced in the divisional round because of 2 turnovers. Like, am I clinically insane, just as insane as like Jaden Daniels seems to be, to suggest that I would trust Jaden Daniels for the game more than Lamar, given the track record of these high pressure situations that I've seen from both of them? Is that insane?
I think that I think Lamar is I think he's definitely a more talented football player than Jaden Daniels is. But like what you were saying mentally, in terms of how they would attack the final drive, I think Lamar is it's weird, but like a little bit of a spaz. A little bit like when he gets under pressure, he just starts running in circles. Like he doesn't know where he's going. He's going to get wrapped up by DeMar Hamlin into start breakdancing and fumble the ball. Like he's a little bit of a spaz, and it helps him in some scenarios where he is at times the most unstoppable football player on the planet, but at other times he freaks out. And Jaden Daniels has not freaked out once in the NFL like that we have seen.
Oh,
so I don't like hate it. I obviously would probably take Lamar myself just because of what he can do and what we've seen him do. I mean, he had a great drive, and if Mark Andrews just didn't drop the ball, like he had a comeback drive, and it could have sent that game to overtime potentially. So I don't know if I can take him just yet, but like I don't think it's crazy to do so at all.
Yeah, I think it's just the variance. The variance with Lamar in that type of scenario, I feel like just it worries me. It's almost like if I'm having like a creative player, like in Madden or something, and I'm like choosing all the attributes, but I only have like 100 skill points to use, and I have to leverage it across every single attribute to like create the best player I can. It's like Lamar has most of his points or his chips in the skill and talent attributes, but then like if there was like mental categories or mental fields, it's like it's a lower in that sense, because he does just sometimes make questionable decisions in those moments and do things that ultimately cost the game. And I know it's a small sample size for Jaden, but for a rookie to just never falter, I hold that in such a high regard, that type of mentality and that type of ability. And he's just as, I mean, obviously he's nowhere. I won't say nowhere. He's not as good as Lamar as a runner or a passer or as a quarterback, but I think he makes up for it with the winning mentality and the lack of pressure that he feels. I'm just so fascinated by it. I had to talk about it.
No, I'm cool with that. Like there's something to just loving the moment, not just being not afraid of the moment, but loving it. Mm-hmm. They're two very different things. Like you'll see some quarterbacks who maybe aren't phased under pressure, but that's just kind of like their norm. And some QBs love the pressure. Like they love when the game gets down to that. Like they love the ball being in their hands to end the game and ice the game. And that's the kind of quarterback he is. Like he wants that ball. Like he wants to try and kill you. And more often than not, he has this season, which is how they end up in the conference championship. And the rest of his team let him down. I'm not going to hold that against him personally, as most people probably will. But yeah, I like the comparison of him and Lamar. I think that Lamar is the most unique quarterback we've seen in a long time. But when you have someone that can kind of come as close as you probably can to his skill set, like Jaden Daniels can, as a runner and a passer, it's kind of fun to compare them, especially when one's just a rookie, and seeing that he's already had almost more success than Lamar has in the playoffs already. Yeah, I think it's a fair comparison for sure, with a worse supporting cast, in my opinion.
You put that nicely. Some quarterbacks, they love the moment. They thrive in those moments. Like they love to feel the world resting on their shoulders. And while some quarterbacks might not be as bothered, others they don't thrive in it like Jaden does. And I think that's kind of Lamar. I don't think he feels that moment and is like, yeah, I'm gonna kill this. I'm gonna go out there and we're gonna score 100%. And if he is saying that, just the way things have unfolded, I feel like he doesn't fully believe it. Like there's something about it that overwhelms him or takes advantage of his thought process, and he doesn't, like you said, thrive in it the same way that a Jaden might.
Yeah,
and I think go ahead.
No, it was something kind of along those lines of. I saw a thing that somebody said about Josh Allen, but I'll throw Jaden Daniels in there too. Is like, how do you stop? Like, what's the game plan to stop the Bills or the Commanders? Like, you take the ball out of Jaden Daniels and Josh Allen's hands. How do you? And then they also asked, how do you stop the Ravens? You make Lamar pass and you let him mess up. That has been the secret to beating Lamar every single year in the playoffs. You make them pass the ball and they lose every time. To the Titans, where they threw the ball like 60 times, or to the Chiefs last year when they abandoned the run game, or to the Bills game this year where he turned the ball over for the first 2 times in like what feels like months. In that you make him kind of feel the moment. You don't let him rely on his teammates. Like you make him be the moment. And he just doesn't live up to it as much as you might see from Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels.
So. Yep. I did see that tweet too.
I love that one.
I thought that was brilliant. I mean, it's very true. Like,
yeah.
I don't think, given how long Lamar has been playing and the sample size we have of him in the postseason, it's no longer like, oh, it's only been 2 games, or it's only been, a couple times we've seen him here. Next time he'll get it. Like there's enough to be able to say these things with confidence.
Right. And I don't hold this last playoff game against him. Like I don't think that a lot of the playoff games have been his fault, but he's not elevating his game to a higher degree than his regular season games. Like he is a worse quarterback in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. And you don't really see successful quarterbacks do that really ever. Like you'll see most of the other top quarterbacks in the NFL have at least had 1 or 2 games where they looked exceptional in the playoffs. And he just hasn't had that yet. So, I mean, I think that kind of puts my answer to the Josh Allen Lamar conversation, but it also kind of throws Jaden Daniels in there someday.
Totally. I'm excited to see, because you said the other day, like your argument as far as top 10 quarterbacks go is more so between Daniels and Stroud. And I was giving Stroud, I was kind of not thinking about that. I was kind of giving it to Stroud. But now I would say, even after a loss like the one they suffered today, I still think Jaden's stock increased.
Yeah. I don't hold anything against him in that game. No, nothing.
No. Yeah, a fantastic day for the Eagles. And now we all get the dreaded Philadelphia, Kansas City Super Bowl outcome that no one wanted. So
one thing I think that we should do is, have you seen like Bladen's QB ranking quiz or whatever?
Yeah.
We should try that out.
Oh, like on a podcast.
I'm just so curious, just to like put on paper my QB rankings. I think I'm gonna do that at some point soon.
Well, what we should do is we should go into it with our own version of them, and then
Yes.
do it on the podcast.
Like fill it out.
Yes, as we're doing the podcast, and then compare the results to what we have from the quiz to what we actually wrote down.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that would be cool. That's a good idea. All right. Well, I think that's about all I have. If you had anything else,
that was it. No, I mean, I think next time is kind of when we're going to get into more of the predictions, what to expect from the Super Bowl, a few fun storylines. But there's one more football game left, man. One more meaningful football game left. So we're going to make the most of it.
Yep. It's going to be fun.
Intro. Yep.
It's going to be fun, but I'm looking forward to having some time off, if you will.
I love the off season, man.
Yeah. Like I'm ready for it. I think it's going to open up great topics of conversations for us to have. We have more freedom, creativity with what these podcasts can feature. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be episode 6 of Against the Blitz. You should assumingly expect Thursday morning, but thank you for tuning in tonight. My Bills have crushed the hearts of all of America, but it is what it is. We will all live to see another day. Maybe I won't. But thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, follow if you have not already. And we will see you. I'll have to come up with a new intro. Someone bitched at me in the Discord about our outro. So
for what?
I don't know. It felt like it was dumb. I'm like, that's kind of the point.
It is the point. Yeah. Fuck them. Who does? Fuck you. Yeah.
All right. Well, see you Thursday. Peace. Something. Bye.